Hey there, I'm Dorian Kogis. Today I'm excited to share my 20-minute walkthrough of the customer discovery process for DeepFeedback.ai as my first assessment submission. This is more than compliance deliverable for the class. This is the outcome of hundreds of data points, tough syntheses, deep reflection, and principled bets. In this session, I'll guide you through the full arc, from hunch to insight, from noise to clarity. The name Deep Feedback wasn't plucked from a hat, you know. It reflects our conviction that product intuition, when paired with structured analysis and grounded pattern recognition, becomes a superpower. We built this for founders and product teams navigating complexity, and we built it from inside the storm. We live this. We eat the dog food, as we say. What you're about to see is a full spectrum exploration, from how we formed hypotheses and validated customer pain to how we applied sentiment models and engineered a concise strategic value proposition. Each section builds on the last. You'll see how we wrestled ambiguity into insight, one hard-earned inference at a time. The assessment you received includes a standardized form, but that barely scratches the surface of what we explored. That form is supported by a suite of documents, primary research artifacts, AI-enhanced analysis, UVP evaluations, persona breakdowns, competitive landscape, and even sentiment quadrant scoring. To do justice to the work, this presentation goes beyond the form. I'll show you not just the conclusion, but how we got there, our methodology, our reasoning, and the decisions we made when data and judgment had to dance. You'll notice we didn't default to standard tools. We engineered custom scrapers, leaned on Notion as our internal knowledge graph, and built research scaffolding that could handle real-world uncertainty. This wasn't an academic exercise for me or for my business partners. It was a rehearsal for reality. So as I go slide by slide, remember this. What you're seeing is a structured response to ambiguity. We weren't handed a playbook. We had to write one. I know this page wasn't asked for, but this isn't rhetoric. It's operational doctrine. It's why we invested in building our insights pipeline before finalizing a feature roadmap in the company that I helped found, that I am driving. It's why we prioritized thematic synthesis instead of launching a dashboard for vanity metrics. Our manifesto, my manifesto, shapes how I and the company listen. We don't treat interviews as data collection. We treat them as signal refinement. When someone says, I just don't trust AI with nuance, we don't log it and move on. We interrogate the friction, because that's where the gold is. Everything you'll see in this deck flows from these convictions on this page. Let's talk about context for the assessor. That little paragraph or two in the front of the thing just doesn't get it. Deep feedback is the evolution of looplytic, a promising but underpositioned tool that I found while I was doing research for another project that I'm running at One Day, my wife's book. I took it over from two brilliant technical founders, Natick and Kushank, who agreed the product needed a sharper identity, one that reflected the depth of insight it aimed to deliver, but couldn't yet. We didn't rebrand for vanity. We rebranded because the original name misrepresented the product's value. The new name, Deep Feedback, signals a clear transformation from shallow survey answers to insight-rich conversation. We selected the name through a triangulation process, testing over 50 variants against our manifesto, target persona residence, and even available semantic clarity in the domain and trademark space. The name had to signal depth, speed, clarity, and it had to do so in under 15 characters. What emerged wasn't just a name. It was a rallying cry. It aligned internal culture, external messaging, and product philosophy. When I first encountered the customer discovery section in the one-day framework, I ran into an ambiguity. It wasn't clearly defined, this part that you're asking me to fill out. The guidance offered was vague, and the examples weren't concrete enough to really be instructive for me. So rather than stall, I reframed the challenge. That's what I always do. I treated this as an invitation to architect our own rigorous methodology. So instead of asking, who did we talk to? I asked, how can we systematically uncover insights from across known and unknown sources? We built custom research tables in Notion that combined AI-assisted calculations with personic prompts. These informed queries that we ran through tools like SparkToro, IdeaFloat, Bebop, and others. We even built a LinkedIn and Reddit scraper from scratch to capture qualitative data across 100 plus threads, 5,000 comments, and over 300,000 upvotes. That's quant added to the qualitative. This expanded our visibility beyond the personal networks and voluntary interviewees, I should say. It gave us a window into organic customer discourse at scale. What surfaced was an extremely rich, unfiltered look at how product managers and founders actually struggle with discovery. Well, you got this one right, the hunch. We too started not with a hypothesis, but with a hunch. Why? Because a hunch is emotional. It lingers, it nags. It's closer to the root problem than any neatly worded assumption. Here are the 4 hunches that guided our discovery. 1, early stage founders are making costly product and pricing decisions based on biased interviews and gut feel because their tools don't surface reliable validation signals. 2, teams want to do discovery, but they avoid it because they're embarrassed to ask obvious questions and get back polite lies, hence the mom test book and what you guys teach us about that. 3, pricing research, when done at all, is anecdotal. Startups need rapid ways to test price sensitivity without sounding desperate or confusing. And 4, even when good interviews happen, and they do, synthesis is a black hole. Insights disappear in spreadsheets, transcript, or Notion pages that nobody revisits. Each of these hunches came from experience. But we didn't treat them as gospel. We tested them through interviews, data scraping, and AI-driven theme extraction. What we found? Every hunch had teeth. We operationalized our hunch testing in Notion, not because it's trendy, but because it feeds into our AI-enabled retrieval system that we use. Our corporate brain isn't just a list of notes. It's a relational network of evolving insight represented as a RAG graph. Each hunch is tagged to jobs to be done, tied to personas, linked to specific user comments and interview moments, and enriched with metadata about the channel or context where the pain emerged. So when we looked at the hunch around poor synthesis, we didn't just log it. We could query what percentage of sentiment tagged responses involved complaints about spreadsheets or lost insights. That query returned 29% of the data set. That's huge! This is how we transformed anecdote into signal. This is how we let the qualitative speak quantitatively. Still, on this very first part, we refused to be limited by who we personally knew. Instead, we designed a research model to reach beyond our network into the real, messy public discourse where our customers actually live. That started with tools like SparkToro to identify common podcasts, influencers, and social accounts, followed by our persona. We then used Bebop to gather structured threads from Reddit and LinkedIn and built a custom scraper to ingest our structure and structure that data. We collected over 100 discussions about threads, more than 5,000 user comments, and evaluated them across a range of sentiment dimensions. These weren't just likes or upvotes. We pulled the content into scoring engines built on top of Twitter Roberta, allowing us to identify pain intensity as well as frequency. We looked for recurring markers, fear of building the wrong thing, frustration with unhelpful tools, the exhaustion of repetitive synthesis. We then used these markers to align insights with hunches and generate a harmonized set of recurring themes. This triangulation gave us confidence that the problems that we're solving are not isolated. They're systemic. From the data we analyzed, interviews, social threads, comments, and community discussions, we synthesized key insights into 4 categories that drove not only how customers think, but when and why they act. Goals, what they're ultimately trying to achieve. Triggers, what catalyzes them to seek a solution. Objections, what holds them back. Desired benefits, what outcomes they are truly after. Each insight wasn't extracted in isolation. We used clustering to surface patterns, then manually curated them to validate. For example, one user says, "We talk to customers, but it's not really changing our roadmap." That's not just a complaint. It's an insight into inefficiency. It maps to the goal of making data-informed decisions and the desired benefit of bias-free synthesis in minutes. We then validated these patterns across tools and interviews. A repeated theme? Panic after a failed launch. It drives teams into reaction mode. But their tools don't help, so they spin. This structured view helped us shift from anecdotal feedback to strategic clarity. Why customers buy, when they're ready, and what must be true for them to act. Now we zoom in on the friction, the 5 most emotionally resonant and frequently reported pain points across our data set. Fear of building the wrong thing. The stakes are existential. One bad launch can wreck morale and funding prospects. Wasting time on interviews that don't shift direction. Founders said, hey, we do discovery, but nothing changes, so why bother? 3, generic or sparse feedback. They hear it's fine or seems okay. That's not insights, that's just politeness. 4, conflict between lean startup theory and the reality of chaos. Our customers know, the people we surveyed know what the books say, but real life is messy, fast, and uncertain. And finally, data paralysis. They have transcripts, Loom videos, Notion docs, but no synthesis, no signal, no clarity. Each of these pains hits differently, but all are high frequency and high intensity, and every one of them is solvable. That's our product opportunity. We translated pain into motion by articulating the jobs to be done. These are high-context, scenario-specific, actionable statements that describe what our customers are actually trying to accomplish when friction shows up. Examples. When evaluating fragmented tools, I want to consolidate research so I can reduce drag and simplify workflows. You can read the rest of them here and in the documents that I have. You don't have to read. I'm not going to read them all for you. By mapping these jobs to pains, triggers, and desired outcomes, we formed a cohesive understanding of the user arc, from problem awareness to solution adoption. Okay, this was my favorite part. This is where the geek came out. We needed a way to prioritize, not just based on intuition, but based on signal strength. So we built what we call the magic quadrant of pain. Each pain point was assessed along 2 axes, frequency and intensity. We fed over 5,000 comments through Twitter Roberta for sentiment scoring and backed that with Siebert when sentiment was ambiguous. We weighted scores to account for platform tone differences, Reddit sarcasm versus LinkedIn professionalism. The result? A 4-box quadrant that gave us a visual prioritization, of which we then ignored 3 boxes and only went with the top right quadrant, high frequency, high intensity. This is our urgent project imperative. How do I know? Well, instead of jumping to features, we forced ourselves to start with the desired shift in customer state. If someone was overwhelmed by disjointed notes, what would their relief actually look like? Not just faster, but clearer. Not just organized, but decision ready. We brainstormed a dozen concepts, ran them through our alignment filter. Does the solution directly address the top quadrant pain? Does it allow up to the moment need? Does it reinforce our manifesto? Some ideas got cut, not because they were bad, but because they were distractions. The one that did make it, real-time adaptive questioning. A system that mimics an expert interviewer and probes naturally, giving users depth without friction. Cool. Real-time adaptive questioning is our wedge. It's our answer to 3 converging truths. Founders don't trust static surveys. Interviews are time-consuming and hard to do well. Synthesis often comes too late to act. Here's how it works. The AI interviewer listens to the user response and dynamically asks deeper, sharper follow-ups. It feels like talking to somebody who's truly paying attention, and it's entirely self-serve. The system does 3 things at once. It generates high-quality input, it removes researcher bias, it enables immediate synthesis. Rob Fitzpatrick would love it. It reduces the barrier to entry so that even a solo founder can get signal quality interviews on demand and make changes by Monday. We didn't write our value proposition. We extracted it. Yes. Like mining a signal from noise. We tested 5 UVP candidates across clarity, market resonance, persona alignment, and uniqueness. The one we chose scored highest across the board. By harnessing adaptive AI interviewers and real-time thematic analysis, we empower product teams to validate ideas in hours, turning unstructured conversations into clear, data-backed roadmaps. Harnessing signals we're not replacing the human, just enhancing them. Validate ideas in hours is the time-based promise. Startups need speed. Unstructured conversations into data-backed roadmaps. This is the transformation. We validated this UBP not just through internal alignment, but through external resonance. When shared with founders and PMs, it triggered nods and one-word reactions. Yes, exactly. My favorite, need this. That's our signal. To round this all out, our research process wasn't improvised. We studied the jobs to be done methodology from Stratogen and Christensen and the original author. We used sentiment modeling from Hugging Face. We cited one-day framework and yes, found its ambiguities and filled the gaps ourselves. In total, we referenced more than a dozen frameworks and tools from classic theory to modern platforms like SparkToro and Bebop. This was not just a startup project. It was a grounded, methodologically diverse investigation that reflects our respect for both rigor and innovation, and our honor, our true honor, to be one-day MBA students. I thank you for your time. I'm Dorian.